how much confidence do you have in yourself if this fight hits the ground that you can not only survive but win on the ground against a legend like Glover who is incredible on the ground?
With all respect, I have to be dominant on the ground, not like other opponents who's just taking the Glover's game like.
This is Johnny with Tiger Bomb MMA, and tonight I'll be going over UFC 275, Texeira versus Prochazka, going over the entire card, thoughts, predictions, possible parlays. Before I go through that, I did want to break down my thoughts on the previous night's card, which would have been Rosenstrike versus Volkov. So I'll go over that really quickly. It's going to be a link below. Just skip this shit if you don't want to watch it. But first fight of the night, Blanchfield versus J.J. Aldrich. Blanchfield looked fine. Striking looked rudimentary. She got the high elbow guillotine in the second round. Good for her. J.J. Aldrich made it look a lot tougher, a lot closer when it came to the odds, but eventually skill prevailed. J.J. Aldrich, she's good, though. I'm going to keep an eye on her in the future for, fading, not necessarily fading her, but fading her opponents, depending on the odds. But yeah, Blanchfield, I think her day might be coming. I'll just say that. Next bout, Rinat Fakhretdinov. I can pronounce the name now because first name or surname sounds like fuck. Defeated Michailidis. Handled him pretty well. I mean, Michailidis put up a good fight at 170. He looked pretty good. Just got gassed out by the better wrestler that night. Next bout, Jeff Molina defeats Zalga Zumagulov. To me, full disclosure, I wasn't paying attention to that fight. I was very fucking busy that Saturday. The whole morning, I was helping my aunt with some legal shit. So I was going back and forth with driving and whatnot. So I'm watching the fight. And to me, it looked like Molina was winning the fight. Like he was landing more despite Zalga kind of controlling him. But as we've kind of discussed, I don't know if we've discussed it here in the channel, but when it comes to control time, it's really difficult to try to win based off control time if you're not controlling the entirety of the fight. I mean, if you're holding a guy down and not doing shit and he's fucking elbowing you and you're leaking blood, you're losing the fight. In this case, it was a lot closer because the punches that Molina were landing weren't very impactful and Zagos was throwing some knees. To me, at the end of the day, it doesn't fucking matter. Molina won the fight. That's all that really matters. Zagas, I always blame the fighter in that situation because if he wanted to win, he should have done more to win. You have to convince the judges that you won the fight. To me, Jeff Molina convinced me that he won the fight. Moving on, we've got Tony Gravely knocking out Johnny Munoz. This one sucked because I had a couple bets with Johnny Munoz in it, and he got knocked the fuck out immediately. And I was like, damn, I thought he was going to put up a better fight. I thought his chin was going to hold up. I was joking around saying that initially when I picked him, it's like Johnny Munoz is a Mexican fighter. His boxing should be good. Turns out his boxing might be very Mexican, but his chin is very Salvadorian. So we'll leave it at that. Benoit Saint-Denis does exactly what I thought Benoit Saint-Denis was going to do, and that is choke out Nicholas Stolze. I mean, Benoit in the future, he needs to stop leading with his fucking face because he got clipped with the knee. That was pretty scary. I mean, if it would have been a couple inches to the right, or actually to the left, it would have knocked him out. Then again, Benoit's a very tough guy. I mean, that's one of the reasons I picked him to win that fight, but good for him. Stoltz, I don't know if they're going to bring him back. He might have to go to the regional circuit. Yeah, circuit. I was going to say circus. Regional circus, and then he'll be back eventually. He's not a bad fighter. He just needs to work on some things, mainly takedown defense. Damon Jackson versus Daniel Argueta. I didn't really get to watch this one clearly. I saw glimpses of it. I mean, Jackson did what I thought Jackson was going to do for 2 rounds, and that was dominate. I thought he would eventually finish Argueta, but Argueta proved to be way fucking tougher. I mean, I don't know why I didn't think of that because he's not cutting weight. His cardio should be better regardless of the short window for him taking the fight. And he looked good. Apparently, from what I read, I didn't go back and rewatch the fight. He almost knocked out Jackson. So it's one of those fights I initially thought he was going to get knocked out. The fact that he survived and that he looked good, it just good for him. It's not as good as a win, but very much so David Onama, it's like you might have lost the fight, but you still showed what you can do. So I'm excited that he's in the UFC now. Perhaps down the line there might be a rematch with him and Ricky Tercios from the Ultimate Fighter. That'd be fun to fuck. That'd be fucking fun to watch. Joe Soleiki defeats Alex de Silva. I'm not going to get into that. Really funny decision. Probably one of the funniest decisions of the year for me. A guy wins 2 rounds in a fight and still loses because of a point deduction. Fantastic. Karolina Kowalkiewicz defeats Felice Herrig. She retires Felice Herrig. And, I could be very reserved and give you a very honest review and breakdown, but Karolina's back, boys. She's back. She's going to run through the fucking division. She's training with Joanna Jędrzejczyk. She's making Joanna better. Polish Power 2.0. Yeah, I love Karolina. I fucking love Karolina. I was a little disappointed that she changed her walkout song from The Passenger to, I believe it was TNT. I could be wrong, from AC/DC, but it is what it is. I'll accept it. I'm glad she got the win. Felice Herrig's going to retire. I've been joking around for years that I think her nickname's Little Bulldog. Yeah, Little Bulldog is very accurate because from behind she's a 10, but from the front she's a Little Bulldog. So moving on, Alonzo Minifield defeats Asgar Razoff. I mean, I should have done more research with this dude. Like I picked Morozov to win mainly because I thought if there was a moment, he would make Minifield look stupid. And there was a brief moment. I'm like, here it comes. Here's where he proves me right, because Minifield let him up. He took him down immediately. No shock there. We kind of know about Morozov now, his multiple records and changing his name. I didn't look into it too much. Very sketchy. Good to know in the future. If he ever fights Fabio Charant, I'll probably pick him to win an inside the distance. But this motherfucker changed his name from No Mercy to the Black Jaguar. And I bring up Fabio Charant for a reason, because the last person who I bet inside the distance against Fabio Charant was another Black Jaguar, fucking Oberg. So when I found out his name was Black Jaguar, I'm like, I'm fucked here. Like, I had a bet on him. But Minifield did what he had to do. Probably my favorite part of the entire fight was when Morozov's on the bottom and he's like, "You do steroids, huh?" I'm like, that was fucking funny as hell to me. But it is what it is. Minifield looked good. He did exactly what he should have done. And that's why I stay away from Minifield fights. Like, regardless, if I truly believe he might win, I'll take a shot on his opponent possibly knocking him out, because he did let him up. And had Morozov been a little smarter, which he's not, he could have probably knocked him out. He's got some decent technique. It's just his takedown defense sucks. Moving on, Ode Osborne defeats Zaruk Adishev. I said it prior. What the fuck were people seeing in Zaruk Adishev? I think I know. Ode Osborne leaves his chin exposed up in the air, but it didn't really matter. Ode knocked him the fuck out. As I expected, Ode's just too athletic. He's too long and rangy. And the best thing about this fight, despite Adishev getting knocked out and Ode winning, is that you kind of know to fade Ode in certain spots with better strikers. So it is what it is. Ode pulled it off. He's a bit of a kook, but good for him. Adishev, poor guy, man. They're just throwing him to the wolves. Next bout, Karine Silva defeats Pauliano Dalio. I didn't really get to watch this one either, other than the, I believe it was like a Darce choke, like a power Darce guillotine. I could be wrong, but she tapped out. Of course she did. Next bout after that, Lucas Almeida versus Mike Trizano. Funny fight. Trizano, I don't like Trizano, but not because of him. He doesn't appeal to me. His point fighting style never really has appealed to me. And I think he finally earned my respect, if that means a piss all to him. He got TKO'd in the third round, but he fought very well. He fought very smart. He actually was hurting Almeida with a check left hook. Almeida, of course, looked exactly like I thought Almeida would. The exact same way I thought Almeida was going to look, which is like a berserker. And he was very reserved. His gas tank served him. His recovery was very good. He drops Trizano in the first round. Trizano recovers. He then actually knows the opposite. Trizano drops Almeida in the first round. It was just a very back and forth, great fight. Both guys showed heart, chin, determination. Trizano earned my respect. Prior, I think in the latest video that I made about this card, I wanted Almeida to knock him out, but it kind of sucked because I'm like, I'm finally liking Trizano, but I picked Trizano to win. I wanted Almeida to win. I call it a wash. It's a loss on my record. It is what it is to me, but like I'm glad Almeida won, but now I'm kind of feeling bad for Trezano. Next bout, Movsar Evloev versus Dan Ige. Exactly what you kind of predicted. I mean, that lead, I guess, flying knee that Evloev was throwing was incredibly fucking smart. Like, I really like Evloev. I think he's a very smart fighter because the way he was shelling up Ige, that is, like, covering up, he did leave himself exposed for uppercuts and in this case, the flying knee up the middle. And I'm like, damn, Ige's tough as fuck. Didn't expect him to get knocked out, but it was like, Evloev is just getting better and better. Ige, I don't think he's diminishing. I think he's still a very, very good fighter. Very, I don't want to say prospect. I don't even want to call him a gatekeeper because under the right circumstances, he could have been fighting for the title. But I think one more loss, depending on who he fights next, he could be in that gatekeeper status. Evloev, on the other hand, you know, he's calling out Arnold Allen. That'll be a fantastic fight. I always kind of thought Arnold Allen and Dan Ige and Evloev kind of look the same, very similar haircut, white guys. As for Ige, all I can really say is that apparently there's a Dan Ige joke going around. It's like, it basically goes like this: like after he got his ass beat by Evloev, it's like, oh man, Dan, is he straight? And he's like, nah, Ige. But moving on, Alexander Volkov defeats Georgina Rosenstrike. I was back and forth on this one because I'm like, you never really know their heavyweights. I'll give it to Rosenstrike. He did go out there. He tried to get the knockout. He just did not fight very smart. Like, he was a little too reckless. Sometimes him going in there berserker mode works for him. But I think I mentioned that Alexander Volkov's chin was going to be too high, literally. Not necessarily that it was keeping it. He was keeping it high in the air for it to get like cracked. He does that sometimes, but it just wouldn't have been there for Georgina to really land on cleanly. And the heavier Volkov, I believe he came in heavy this time. Like, typically he used to be like 140-ish, 130-ish, started gaining some weight, started knocking dudes out, did the same here. Very impressed by him. Like, I think a lot of people were fading Volkov because of the domination that happened against him with Tom Aspinall. And it's like, if Tom Aspinall is going to take you down and submit you like that, there's no shame in that. But those were my particular picks. I went 10-4 for this card overall. If you motherfuckers are interested, I am 147-74 for the year. And that's like give or take a fight or two. I did a complete, like, I did all the numbers just to make sure, like, all my losses were in order, all my wins were in order. And I think I'm like at 66% right now. And that's like, I'll be honest, I've been saved because I had some like pretty good cards where I got like either a perfect card or maybe out of 11 bouts, I got 10 and lost one. Those type of things saved me. I need, if I want to focus on getting a better record for like future reference, I have to stop making like predictions based off of possible outcomes that may not be there. Like, for example, what's his name? Morozov, for example. Minifield is the smart play, but like, I got to go with my gut sometimes. I'm like, I think Morozov, I mean, I was wrong, but like, I think Morozov has a chance if he does this and Minifield does that. And split window, I could have been like the smartest fucking guy in the room, but it just didn't work out for me. But let's move on to the actual card at hand. We've got a main event. We have two main events, essentially. We've got the ladies bout, and then we've got the return of Glover Teixeira, and it's going to be an interesting card. But let's get the ball rolling. We've got, actually, before I do that, let me swap over this shit. I don't have the what I call the fight cards this week. It's been fucking busy for me. Like, just bear with me, boys. But to begin, we've got at featherweight, Joslyn Edwards versus Ramona Pascal. And I should mention, for the prior card, the Volkov versus Rosenstrike, I didn't do much research. I didn't do a lot of tape watch. Did pretty well. I'm going to try to do the same thing here. Like, I've been incredibly busy. I haven't been able to watch a ton of tape. Luckily, a lot of these fighters I recall. I keep a spreadsheet of what I remember about these fighters, so I don't really have to do a whole ton of tape watch in the future, because you're rewatching the same fucking fights over and over, and you're just trying to find little nuances of, like, does this guy defend leg kicks well, or does this guy tuck his fucking chin? In this particular case, being that it's a women's bout at featherweight. Ramona Pascal, not impressed by her. She's good enough to get takedowns and hold you down. She made her debut at 145 against Joslyn Edwards. No, wait, I thought this was at 135. Okay, whatever. Yeah, she made her debut against Joslyn Edwards, Josie Nunes. I picked Nunes to knock her the fuck out. Different referee would have stopped it, but she survived. She's got a good chin. I don't like Pascal right off the bat. I don't like her. She said something fucking stupid, something about like I want to be a representation for like Asian women. I'm like, bitch, there was a UFC champion from China. I think she qualifies as Asian. I don't know. It just rubbed me the wrong way. I'm like, she kind of was trying to use that as a platform to push herself up, despite being the fact that there was a UFC champion. Weili Zhang being a fucking UFC champion, I'm like, this girl can go fuck herself. But Joslyn Edwards, she can't stuff a takedown, but she's good. I think she's good off of her back decently. I don't think Pascal belongs in the UFC. I'm a firm believer in that. I think she can definitely get a win in the UFC. If she were to hold down Edwards, just lay on her, and Edwards like accepts it, that's a chance she can win. I didn't even read the odds. That's how pissed off I am about Ramona Pascal. Minus 170 for Edwards. I think I don't like it, but it's accurate. Plus 150 for Pascal. I'm going to go with Edwards by, you know what? I'm going to go by submission. I initially had it by decision. I'm going to disrespect this girl. I'm going to say round number 2. I think Edwards, she's a good striker. I like Edwards quite a bit, despite her being on a 2-fight losing streak. They're against some pretty good competition. Jessica Rose Clark just completely like did what what Ramona Pascal has to do and just hold her down. I don't think Edwards is going to allow that. I don't think Ramona Pascal is that caliber of a wrestler. Her striking is more her bread and butter, but her striking is not great. She's okay. I talked about it too much. Edwards, second round submission, rear neck choke. Next bout, we've got Sylvana Gomez Juarez versus Na Liang. Na Liang is a Dragon Girl. Initially, my gut saying fade Na Liang, despite her being the slightly taller girl. She is 5'5" compared to the 5'3" of the 37-year-old lady from Argentina. Despite her being the favorite, she is a minus 165. Come back on Na Liang is plus 140. Na Liang, like, you can say what you want about her. Her fight with Carnelossi was very entertaining. It opened up the card back where there was a live crowd again, and it was fantastic. Like hearing the crowd go nuts for these two girls having a sloppy bar fight was great. You know, she's not bad. Dragon Girl Na Liang, she's not terrible. She did gas out. Maybe she got overexcited. She went a little too hard. I know Gomez just got submitted recently by Demopoulos, but Demopoulos, she's sneaky, right? She's very fucking sneaky. I think Juarez is actually going to TKO Na Liang in the second round. It's going to be a fun fight. I actually am looking forward to this fight. It's a 50-50 in my opinion. So in those cases, if you want to take the dog, you can. My gut's saying Juarez by TKO in the second round. Na Liang, you know, she's okay. You know, I'm not going to shit on her. She's pretty exciting, but my pick, Gomez Juarez by TKO second round. Next bout, we've got Mr. Perfect, Kyung Ho Kang versus Dana Batgarel. I know Batgarel, a lot of people were on Batgarel in his last fight. I particularly wasn't. Chris Gutierrez TKO'd him, and that surprised me. I thought he was going to decision him, but it just happens that way sometimes. Like Gutierrez is a good striker. Dana Batgarel's coming back, and he's fighting Mr. Perfect here. Mr. Perfect let me down. I had him to beat Ronnie Yaya, and he kind of fell into like this weird trap of getting taken down despite being the better striker. His striking has come along. I mean, I've always been a bit of a fan of Kang, Mr. Perfect, mainly because he has a wrestling nickname, Mr. Perfect, Kurt Hennig. And of course, like he's cashed me out in the past a lot. So I keep an eye on him. He loses, let me rephrase that. He wins more so than he loses. Like he hasn't really lost me any money other than, you know, the Ronnie Yaya, but he's a plus 125 against the 150, minus 150 Dana Batgarel. I'm going to go with Batgarel by second round knockout. I just think that Batgarel, despite his setback, he's still the much better fighter right now. I mean, the way he throws that right hand, I mean, Gutierrez was able to survive it, but I don't think Kang's going to be able to. I think if Kang's going to come in here with his slick back hair and his mustache looking all sexy and shit. I don't know if he's going to try to strike with him. If he does, Batgirl's going to knock him the fuck out. And Batgirl's takedown defense is pretty solid. So I'll go with Batgirl. Just being a bit more, like, deep down, it's like more of a 50-50 for me. I think I respect Kang too much, and I think that might be blocking my judgment. So I'm just going to go straight to not Batgirl. Next bout at welterweight, we've got one of my new fucking favorite fighters, Andre Fiallo versus Jake Matthews, the Celtic Kid. Minus 150 for Fiallo. Comeback on Matthews is a plus 125. This one, like, immediately no tape Fiallo knockout, but that's because it's fresh in my mind. You know what else is fresh in my mind? Cameron Vanderkamp nearly knocking out Fiallo. I'm like, eesh. Like, I don't know if Fiallo didn't take him seriously. I mean, who would, right? But he ends up knocking him out. This one, it's very, very close. To me, if I was going to let the line dictate my pick, it would have to be like at a plus 200 at Jake Matthews for me to take that. Like, Jake Matthews, it's not going to be a walk in the park. I think he's got a good chance at beating Fiallo, but Fiallo's got that dynamite in that hand. His boxing's very good. His combinations are good. He's throwing kicks now because he's not a little bitch. And I cannot believe he's 28 years old. Like, 27 for Jake Matthews, 28 for Fiallo. I like to make my I'll explain my thought process. I'm very, very high on both Miguel Baeza and also on Michel Pereira. Knowing how well he handled those two guys, without the loss to Vanderkamp, I'd be picking Fiallo to knock out Jake Matthews. But realistically, we've seen that if someone's very aggressive with Fiallo and then he doesn't see it coming, like Jake Matthews isn't really known as a power puncher, but I know he has power. He hits fucking hard. I think he can probably crack Fiallo. Maybe it doesn't go the distance would be a good pick, but deep down, like my mind is just telling me Fiallo by decision. I think he's going to be landing better strikes. Jake Matthews, though, he's going to be able to grapple like shit. I'm very 50-50 split on this one. This, out of all the fights so far, I think this one's a lot closer, in my opinion, because I think Matthews is really good, but Fiallo's on a very good roll. It just really depends, man. Like, I think if Jake Matthews sets the precedent early of him getting takedowns, he can tire out Fiallo. If you're banking on that to happen, absolutely go with the Celtic Kid. But Fiallo, if he can stuff takedowns, which he's been taking a ton of fights recently. I don't know how much he's been training his sprawls and his takedown defense, but if he can keep it on the feet and if he gets the respect from Jake Matthews, I can see Jake Matthews kind of like being very tentative, throwing kicks on the outside and getting countered, and then Fiallo easily winning a decision. It could be a lot closer. I'm really gonna enjoy this fight, but I'm gonna go with my gut. I'll go with Fiallo. It might bite me because I think Jake Matthews, if I'm gonna bet either guy, I'll go with Jake Matthews bet-wise, but I'll pick Fiallo. I think realistically, his power, his boxing, I mean, he's training at a great camp at Sanford. I think he should be prepared. Jake Matthews, he's one of these guys that sometimes he goes away and he comes back fucking better than ever. I mean, I remember this kid, I bet him to beat, I forget his name, Akbar Ariola. And Akbar Ariola is kind of whipping his ass and he ends up finishing him, I think by cut or something. But he scared me at that point. I'm like, man, fuck this kid, Jake Matthews. But he keeps getting better and better. Like he destroys Jing Liang. He makes Jin Liang basically cheat and gouge his eyes. So it's like I respect Jake Matthews despite like my initial thoughts of him being kind of whack. But he's some guy. He's just a really good fighter. He's just a really good fighter, and he can make a lot of fights close. So keep that in mind if you're thinking about maybe parlaying Andre Fiallo. But next bout, we've got a debutante. We've got Haisar Mashahate. I fucking was watching tape on this dude, and I can't fucking pronounce his name. My apologies. Mahashete versus Steve Garcia, the Mean Machine. This guy, Mahashate, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. He's a underdog minus or plus 135 comeback on Steve Garcia is a minus 155. Steve Garcia, he's okay, I suppose. Like he beat Charlie Ontiveros, and I actually picked Charlie to beat him. And there was a couple moments where I'm like suck my dick, everybody. I'm right, because you know, if you know Charlie Ontiveros, he's been knocked out a lot. He's just not the most reliable guy. Even at middleweight, when he fought against Holland, he got dropped on his neck. It was a scary situation, but it's like it just makes you think he's a little fragile. And he was fucking dropping Steve Garcia multiple times. I mean, Steve Garcia's tough, though. He's very tough. He eventually got it to the ground, and I think that's what's going to happen here. I think Steve Garcia is the play for me. Fucking Mahashate. I saw his fight in the Contender Series. I saw a bit of tape on him. He's a striker. He's a debutant. You cannot pick him. He can probably get a knockout, perhaps. He's got some good power, decent chin. If he was the taller guy here by a significant amount, I might consider picking him. But Steve Garcia for me, I think if he gets in trouble, he's going to take him down and just kind of either ride him out or try to submit him. So I'll go with Steve Garcia by decision. I think it's going to be quite uneventful. There's going to be moments where Mahashate is going to get up and maybe throw some wild punches that might connect, and then Steve Garcia takes him down, and it's going to be fucking boring. But next bout we've got at featherweight, Seungwoo Choi Sting. See, if I was doing my fight cards, those of you who've been watching for a while, his fucking nickname is Sting. I always try to do something with the wrestler Sting. He doesn't deserve it after his last fight. And then Josh Kulabau. Currently, the odds have it in favor of Seungwoo Choi, minus 240. Come back on Kulabau is a plus 200. Kulabau hasn't fought since, Nuremberg. It's been a while. It's a year ago. And, funny enough, when he came into the UFC, he fought Jalen Turner. And this is around the time, this was like 2 years ago or so. I wasn't really actively watching a ton of tape on every single guy. I would listen to a lot of podcasts myself. And I was kind of high on Jalen Turner. I'm like, Jalen Turner's pretty good. He's a taller guy. Kulabau was making his debut, and I was convinced by a certain podcast. I'm not going to tell you who it was, not to shame them or anything, but like I was convinced that like take a shot on Kulabau. He could probably knock out Jalen Turner. That was a big fucking mistake, and I try to avoid those mistakes. But Kulabau's not bad, right? Like, although he got TKO'd in his debut, he went to a split decision with Charles Jourdain. With Charles Jourdain, like it was more of Charles not respecting him, it felt like. And with Nuremberg, it was just his takedown defense was too good. Seungwoo Choi, despite his loss, despite me being kind of butthurt that he got choked out by Alex Caceres, it happens, right? Shit like that happens. Caceres is no joke. He should have taken him a lot more serious. He probably won't make the same mistake with Kulabau. He's just going to be the much bigger guy. He's 6 foot tall, longer reach by 1.5 inches. Hits fucking hard. Very good kickboxer, ever improving, and I think he's going to learn from his mistake from his last fight. This is going to be fun. It's going to be a really good fight. Both guys are good strikers. I would say Seungwoo Choi is obviously going to have the power, more herky-jerky movement from Kulabau, but shit, it's a fight, of course. Anything could happen. Either guy could get knocked out, but my pick is going to be Choi by decision. I think what cost him is his super aggressiveness in his last fight. Like he's very aggressive sometimes. He goes berserk. I think he's going to be more reserved. He's going to be more calculated this fight, and he's going to pick his shots against Kulabau, and he's going to do the more damage and win the fight relatively easily. I mean, Kulabau's a tough Australian, but I just think he's going to be a step behind here. Next bout, another Aussie. We've got Brendan Allen versus Jacob Malkoon. Currently, Malkoon is a plus 205. I know some people out there might be taking him based on what he's done in the UFC recently with his 2 wins, and then the comeback on Brendan Allen is a minus 255. To me, for very easily, like I keep fading Malkoon. I only took him once, right? I only took him once against Phil Haas, and he let me down, and I've been fading him ever since. I faded him against Al Hassan. I'm like, Al Hassan's going to knock him the fuck out. No. AJ Dobson. I'm like, AJ Dobson's going to find the chin eventually. Nope. He just takes him down. He's very, very good at the wrestling. Unfortunately for him, he's fighting a very good fighter. Although Brendan Allen's chin is not something I fully respect, everything else I do. His striking is getting better. His grappling is very good. His wrestling is good. He's a good fighter. His chin sucks, though. I don't think he's going to have much of an issue here with Malkoun. Malkoun's 5'9" compared to the 5'2" of Brandon Allen. Surprisingly, only a 2-inch reach disadvantage for Malkoun. Best shot is to knock out Brandon Allen. I don't see it happening, man. I mean, Brandon Allen's fought much better competition. Fought the great Sam Alvey, essentially undefeated. If you go, 0-12, technically speaking, you're undefeated in your win column. Your win column's unspotted. But I'll go with Brendan Allen. I'm going to say second round submission. I mean, perhaps Malkoun's going to do some damage. And by damage, I mean points. He's going to outpoint Brendan Allen by taking him down. And I think eventually it's going to be a bad play. And I think he might catch Malkoun in a guillotine or whatever the fuck he wants. We've seen Brendan Allen's ground game. He's good at any point of the fight. He can attack you at any limb. Brendan Allen submission for me. Next bout, very interesting bout. We've got Jack Della Maddalena, essentially in his true UFC debut at welterweight against Razman Ameev. This is a very, very good fight. Ameev is a very respected name in my household because he does the Russian coast, the Russian decision. He's a money machine, except for his last fight where he surprisingly lost to Danny Roberts by split decision. I was fucking pissed because you expect things, right? Like, I wasn't really paying attention to the fight. I can't tell you my true opinions on it, but like, when it's a split decision and it's close, just give it to the Russian. Just make me happy. But Jack Della Maddalena, I'm very high on this guy. The odds on this one, I'm not seeing them. Where the fuck are the odds for him? Okay, here we go. Minus 145 for Maddalena. Come back on. Ameev is a plus 125. Since I saw Jack Della in the Contender Series, I'm like, this guy's fucking good. It's like he took his first 2 losses seriously. He's 11-2. His only 2 losses are in the beginning of his career. And then it's like, he's like, never again. He was like, fuck this, never going to lose again. And he hasn't. He hasn't lost since those 2 losses. And the guy's very good counter wrestling, very good striking. He's just so fucking crisp on the feet. And I've yet to really see anything of a true weakness other than his gas tank. I guess he does get kind of tired, but I think he's a very cerebral guy, very smart fighter. If he was really smart here, he would attack the legs of Ameev. Ameev doesn't really change anything. I mean, he can swing his punches and he can connect and he can possibly knock out Jack Della if Jack Della's not very wise to things, right? Like if he's just not taking Ameev seriously on the feet and just too worried about the takedown or the clinch game, it could cost him here. But I think Jack Della's very smart. Ameev, as I mentioned, he just does that. He just holds you against the cage. He knees you, takes you down, rinse and repeat. He's not great at anything. He's 20-5. So even for a Russian wrestler, that kind of record doesn't necessarily give you the Khabib vibes or from his camp. So I'm going to go with Jack Della just because, although I know Ameev is very live here, the odds to me don't really persuade me to put money on him. I think Jack Della, at those odds, minus 135, I think he's the more likely candidate to get a finish in the fight. Like, his striking's so good. He came into the UFC and he knocked out Pete Rodriguez, and Pete Rodriguez had no business being in the cage with him. I mean, he looked fine. Like, he threw punches and they might have connected against Jack Della, but it was just a matter of time for that kid. I mean, he's a more natural lightweight, so I'm looking forward to see if he makes a proper entrance in the UFC. Like, to me, when you're moving up a weight class, fighting bums in Mexico and then fighting a guy like Jack Della, that should not be your UFC debut. That's like a salty fucking taste. Come into your right weight class and, I don't know, knock out some scrub, and then we can talk. But anyways, back to this fight. I'll go with Jack Della by decision. I don't think he'll knock out Ameev. I think he's going to essentially do what Rocco Martin did. Attack the legs, just stay on the outside, more volume, and then just easily win the decision. I think if Jack Della knocks him out, that'd be really cool, but I just don't see it happening. I respect him even enough knowing that he's not going to get knocked out. Speaking of knockout, we've got Rogerio Bontorin versus Manel Cape. odds have it in favor of Kate, minus 235. Comeback on Bontarin is a plus 190. To me, the grappling is going to counter itself out. I don't think Bontarin is going to try and get close to Cape. I just think it's a bad matchup for Bontarin. A really good matchup for Cape. Cape's got good everything except output. That's what pisses me off about the guy. But I think he knocks out Bontarin eventually. We've seen it before. He lets his hands go. He looks like he's going to take over the fight in the second and third round. Then he slows down. So if Bontarin can maybe control him, if he can pull the Aljo and just backpack him, possibly he can win. The odds are, I don't want to say juiced in the favor of Cape, because he should be the rightful favorite, right? He's on a 2-fight knockout streak. I think he knocks out Bontarin, who, he's been knocked out recently himself, about a year ago. And yeah, Bontarin's not really been impressive. He's going to try to wrestle with Cape, and I just don't think it's going to be the best for him. I think he's going to eat a knee or an uppercut. But we've got our next bout, former champions fighting once again, Weili Zhang versus Joanna Jędrzejczyk 2, and the odds are in favor of Zhang, minus 165. Comeback on Joanna is a plus 140. For me, the first fight was really close. As we know, it was a split decision in the favor of Zhang. 3-round fight now. To me, it's a coin flip, because I think both women are very, very evenly matched. Joanna, I know she hasn't fought since her last fight against Zhang, which was 2 years ago, prior to the pandemic. And, she's just been lounging around. But she has been training with Karolina Kowalkiewicz, the Polish princess, the Polish goat. So for that reason, I'm going to go with Joanna. And in seriousness, I'm only going with Joanna because I just get the feeling that the time off has been very beneficial to her. She doesn't necessarily think, like, she lost her belt, right? She lost her belt to Rose, and then she lost to Weili in her title fight, and she took 2 years off. That's a good refresh period, right? She's not incredibly stressed out about winning or, fighting, period. I know she's training, but for Weili, she got knocked out by Rose, and then she lost a split decision to Rose, and that was 6 months ago. She absolutely needs this win, and I don't think Joanna is under that pressure of I need to win this fight. If Joanna loses, she'll fucking take a year off and come back and fight. I don't fucking know. Let me think. What the hell is that girl's name with the crooked eye? Anyway, you don't know. And, beat her ass. But yeah, I'll go with Joanna to win this one by decision. I don't think either girl's going to knock each other out. It's going to be a very fucking fun fight. And then we're going to get, after that, the co-main event, which is Valentina Shevchenko versus Talia Santos. And I'll be up front. I'm going to go with Shevchenko. It's hard not to go with Shevchenko. She's incredibly, incredibly good. But I won't be I'd be lying if I don't tell you that I get the feeling that Santos is live for a finish here, or just live to win. Santos is very good. This is probably the best fighter that Shevchenko's fought in a long time. And I'm including Caitlin Chukagian, but she's a decision machine. And if she can't get off her decisioning way, she's not going to do anything. Shevchenko primed to pick her apart, TKO'd her. And then Jennifer Maia, she doesn't really pose a threat. She needs to take you down. She can't knock you out. Of course she's going to beat her. Jessica Andrade, too small. And then we've got Lauren Murphy. It's fucking Lauren Murphy. Talia Santos, she's 28 years old. She's a heavy favorite, man. I like to say this, if you want to take a shot on a pretty, they say heavy favorite, heavy underdog, plus 450. I mean, $10. Why the hell not? $100. Why the fuck not? Shevchenko is very dominant. She's very good. Talia Santos, people like to bring up her loss to Mara Borella, but it is what it is, man. She's just been destroying girls after that, proving to me that she is not a one-trick pony. I mean, she submitted Joanne Wood. That's not necessarily impressive, but the fact that she was able to submit her, and after dropping her, her striking's very good, her wrestling's getting very good, and obviously her jiu-jitsu is getting better. I think she's possibly a blue belt or a purple belt now. But Shevchenko, to me, she's Shevchenko. She's going to get older. Eventually, someone's going to beat her. Talia, this could be her night. I'm not counting her out. I don't necessarily believe she's going to beat Shevchenko, but there's always that chance that something happens. I mean, Talia is not a fish out of water here. She is probably the better and best fighter that Shevchenko has fought. For that reason, I'd like to probably put a couple of dollars on Santos to win, but I'm going to go with Shevchenko as a pick. Like, no matter that feeling in my gut telling me, like, hey, Santos is live, Shevchenko is just too fucking good. I always tell people, like, man or woman, I think Shevchenko is one of the best fighters I've ever seen. Just her well-roundedness, right? Her striking's fantastic. She can take it to the ground. She just fucks girls up, and you got to respect that. But our main event of the evening, we've got Glover Teixeira versus Jiri Prochazka. Currently, the odds have it in favor of Jiri at a minus 200. Comeback on Glover is a plus 170. 42 years old versus 29 years old. And I'll be 100% blunt. I've been fading Jiri since day fucking one. And I'll explain to you why. Like, I looked at his record. I was not necessarily impressed from what I saw from this guy. Like, he comes in against Volkan Oezdemir, and I was in Vegas at this time when he fought Oezdemir, and I had beautiful fucking parlays, like absolutely stunning, like works of art, fucking chiseled out of the finest marble in Rome. And I just need Volkan Oezdemir to cash me out because he hits hard, and Yuri's kind of wild. He's young. He's a bit immature. He leaves himself exposed. And then he knocks him the fuck out. And I'm like, motherfucker. All right, whatever. And I'm still with that mindset of like, man, this guy's been knocked out before. Like, I've seen him get his ass beat. Like, he's not what he shouldn't have all this hype. Dominic Reyes fought for the title. He fucking essentially beat John Jones. I know he's on a pretty bad, losing streak right now, but I think he's got what it takes to knock out Jiri Prochazka. And then he fucking delivers one of the greatest spinning knockouts I've ever seen in my life, and it just breaks my heart because I like Dominic Reyes, and I'm like, damn, what the fuck is wrong with this guy? Like, he does everything. I don't want to say he does everything wrong, but he does things super unorthodox that it's a very high risk, very high reward for him because it just works for him. Like, he jumps in the fucking air like randomly, and it just kind of stuns his opponent by like being baffled, and then he just hits you with something. He's very unorthodox, not like incredibly unorthodox, but his style is completely fucking different, and it just very much so works for him. And Glover, blood and guts type of fighter, right? Knocks you out with hooks in the fucking feet, very Mike Tyson-esque. I mean, he loves Mike Tyson. When I was doing the intro for this, and I'll explain the process, like usually you'll get something easy, like say Aljo's like, I'm gonna come in his ass. Done. Copy, paste, we're good. With these two guys, I'm just like, they're not necessarily funny. There's not a whole ton of shit I can go with them. And especially for Glover, it's just like, maybe I can use the bit where he's talking about Mike Tyson, and they're just not like the most entertaining guys when it comes to like sound bits. You have to create your own moments. But with Glover, like, I've always liked Glover. Shit, I can tell you stories about Glover, not personal, but like what his fights have meant to me when I'm like hiding in a bathroom streaming his fight with Fabio Maldonado. Anyways, I'd rather not get into that shit, but it's just, I love Glover. Like, I really wanted him to beat John Jones for the title, just like that whole hype of him being what's his name? Chuck Liddell's training partner and shit. Like, really cool guy. And I was happy that he won the belt. Like, how can you not be? It's just that he's an underdog for a reason. He's 42 years old and he's fighting a goddamn killer. He's a fucking murder machine. I can't go against that anymore. Like, I have to go with logic. And the thing about logic is that you get fighters like Glover who break that logic. Like, he's old, yes, but he's so fucking tough, right? Like, he's overcome a lot of obstacles in the cage, age being one of them, of course, but he gets dropped and he comes back and he wins the fight, chokes your fucking guy out. And he's just so unique of a fighter, and it's hard not to respect that. But the dude's been dropped a lot. Again, he's getting older. His chin's not what it used to be. He's been knocked out a lot in the past as well, like fucking Rumble Johnson fucked him up. And of course, Gustafsson laid him the fuck out. That's not solely the reason why I'm picking against them, but I just believe that if Jiri lands something hard, I don't think he's going to let Glover recover. I think he's going to really hurt him and finish him, and we're going to have a new champion. There's always a chance that what I truly believed at first about Jiri could be right, that he's just not. I don't want to say he's getting lucky, right? That just is fucking disrespectful to the guy. I'm not trying to say that, but I don't necessarily believe the hype in the beginning. I'm like, I don't believe the hype of this guy. I feel like he can get taken down, and I do believe Glover can take him down and finish him. I just unfortunately don't think he's going to get a chance. I think Jiri's going to finish him relatively quickly, and we're going to have a new champion. And the way I feel about it is that, like, it's going to suck for Glover, but it's going to be really good for the UFC, because having Jiri as your champion, this highlight machine, he's got a chance to rival McGregor in a much more quiet way. Like, McGregor's very brash and he talks a lot. Jiri's very respectful. He's very, into his Bushido lifestyle type of shit, which, it's popular for, I don't want to say the hardcores, right? But people who really enjoy the sport for what it really is, like the martial art aspect of it. It'll be cool. And plus, he's a good looking dude. So that's going to really help the UFC. But yeah, my pick is Jiri Prochazka, round number 1 knockout. Pains me to say, because of course I respect the shit out of Glover, but I cannot deny the man anymore. Fucking, I just also his nickname Denisa, and then BPJ, I believe BPJ, which stands for something about pussy. But yeah, for me, Prochazka is the way to go. I'll say this, if I end up betting this fight particularly, I might bitch out and go inside the distance, but I don't see either guy surviving. I mean, if say Jiri doesn't knock out Glover, I think Glover finishes him late. I mean, we've yet to really see Prochazka truly pushed outside of like a 3rd, 4th, and 5th round in the UFC, especially with an animal like Glover. So we'll see what happens, right? Like, stranger things have happened. To me, though, I think Jiri is the rightful pick for me. Like, I think he's going to knock him out, which sucks. As for possible parlays and straight bets, I do like Brandon Allen. I'm not going to hesitate. I'm going to go with Brandon Allen for 1 leg, Minnow Cape for the 2nd leg, do Sumu Choi for the 3rd, Jiri. And I think with those 4, I will more than likely play with this parlay, but gives me roughly around a plus 300 with those 4 guys there. For possible props, inside the distance for the main event, fight goes the distance, possibly split decision for the co-main event. What else we got here? Ramona Pascal versus Joslyn Edwards. I might take a shot on Edwards by submission or just inside the distance, because again, I don't think Pascal belongs. I also do believe that the fight between Gomez, Juarez, and Naliang won't go the distance. Something just gives me that feeling. Denat Bakarov, if you want to go by him by knockout, doesn't hurt. Manel Cape by knockout, pretty fucking good there for you as well. And I think that might be it. Possibly Brendan Allen by submission. I mean, Brendan Allen's been getting knockouts as well. He's got good hands, good kicks, but I think the submission game's where it's at. Unless, Malcolm's chin just sucks ass, which I don't want to say it does. He got cracked by Phil Haas against the cage. It is what it is, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. But inside the distance for Brendan Allen, I like that as well. But yeah, those are my possible predictions for parlays and shit, and prop bets. I did need to say something, because for last week against Volkov and what's his face, Rosenstrike, Tattooing Dream was very unhappy with Alex de Silva. I usually say fuck Olberg, but for this video, for him, I'll say fuck Alex de Silva. Have a good night.